Trump's swinging a 25% tariff hammer at Canada, and guess who's stepping up with pasta and wine? Italy. It's a wild twist in the trade war saga, and it's got everyone talking. Could this unlikely duo outmaneuver a tariff storm, or is it just a fancy distraction from the chaos? We're unpacking it all today, from food fights to global power plays. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give us a like. It's free and keeps you ahead of the global game. Ready to see how this unfolds? Let's get started. Tariffs and tensions. Donald Trump's back at it, folks. He's slapping a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, plus a hefty 10 to 60% on China, all set to kick in on March 4, 2025. This isn't a new idea, it's a revival of a plan. He paused back on February 4th after some border security haggling. Why the big swing now? Trump's pointing fingers at fentanyl smuggling and migrant flows, claiming Canada's a weak link. It's a bold accusation, and it's shaking up North America's trade map. Here's the stakes. The U.S. sucks up 75% of Canada's exports. That's $680 billion in 2023 alone, according to Statistics Canada. That's not pocket change, it's a lifeline. So when Trump swings that tariff stick, Canada feels the sting deep. Back in February, Trudeau bought some breathing room with fancy border tech promises. Drones, sensors, the works. It worked for a month, suspending the tariffs. But now, the clock's ticking again, and March 4th is closing in fast. So what's Canada doing about it? They're not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. Ottawa's looking across the Atlantic, and Italy's stepping into the spotlight. Trade between Canada and Italy hit 11.2 billion Canadian dollars in 2024. A tidy jump from the year before. It's not US-level cash, but it's a signal. Canada's shopping for new friends. They even floated shipping liquefied natural gas to China. But the real play's in Europe, Italy especially. Is this a genius strategy to dodge Trump's tariff trap, or a desperate dodge that won't hold up? It's a big question, and it's got layers. Trade deals, food swaps, even high-tech minerals. We're about to dig into the meat of it. How Canada and Italy are teaming up, and whether it's enough to weather this storm. Buckle up, because this isn't just about dollars. It's about power, pivots, and a whole lot of pasta. Let's dig deeper. From pasta to power. All right, let's zoom in on the first big piece of this Canada-Italy trade puzzle, the food sector. With Trump's 25% tariffs looming over Canada like a dark cloud, Italy's stepping up with something a little tastier than trade threats. Think pasta, cheese, and a whole lot of wine. The thesis here is simple. Italy's food exports could soften the blow of those tariffs, giving Canada a cushion to lean on. And folks, the numbers back this up in a big way. In 2024, Italy shipped 1.5 billion Canadian dollars worth of agri-food goodies to Canada, according to the Italian Trade Agency. That's a solid 8% jump from 2023. And it puts Italy third in line behind the US and Mexico when it comes to feeding Canadians. What's driving this? Wine's a huge chunk. $450 million worth flowed across the Atlantic last year alone. Then there's cheese, pasta, olive oil, all the classics. Since 2022, Italian wine exports specifically have spiked 15%. That's not just a trend, it's a lifeline taking shape. A lot of this boom ties back to a game changer from 2017, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, or CETA for short. This deal between Canada and the EU slashed tariffs on 98% of goods traded between them. For Italy, that meant customs barriers on things like Parmesan and Prosecco practically vanished. The result? Canadians are eating and drinking more made in Italy than ever. It's a slow burn that's picking up speed. And with Trump's tariffs set to hit on March 4, 2025, the timing couldn't be more interesting. Now, let's balance the plate here. Some US-leaning skeptics are waving their hands saying, hold up, Italy's 2% of Canada's trade can't touch the US's 75%. And they've got a point. The US is still the gorilla in the room. $680 billion in exports dwarf Italy's $11.2 billion total trade with Canada. Food's just a slice of that pie, and $1.5 billion isn't flipping the table overnight. But here's the kicker. It's not about replacing the US. It's about growth, options, and a little breathing room. Italy's foothold is getting stronger, and that matters. Picture this for a second. Canadian grocery shelves swapping out American bourbon for Italian vino, or trading US cheddar for some sharp pecorino. It's not far-fetched. Those CETA tariff cuts are already making it happen. Restaurants, supermarkets, even your local wine shop, they're starting to lean Italian. Could this be a smart move for Canada to dodge Trump's tariff punch? It's not the whole answer, but it's a tasty start. And it's got people talking. On X, you'll see posts like, "More Italian wine? Yes, please." Right next to, "This won't save us from Trump." Here's where it gets fun. Food isn't just about filling bellies, it's power on the table. If Canada ramps up imports from Italy, they're not just diversifying their supply chain, they're sending a message. Ottawa's saying, "We've got options, and we're not afraid to use them." It's a subtle flex, but it could shift the vibe in North American trade talks. Italy's not storming in to replace the US, but they're carving out a bigger seat, and Canada's happy to pull up a chair. So food's our first stop, and it's a juicy one. But this Canada-Italy story doesn't end with a glass of Chianti. There's more cooking. Think high-tech minerals, energy deals, and some serious strategic moves. We're just getting warmed up, so stick with me as we roll into the next layer of this trade dance. It's about to get even more interesting. Beyond borders, minerals, tech, and energy. So we've got the food angle covered. Pasta and wine are making waves, but Canada and Italy aren't stopping at the dinner table. Let's shift gears to something bigger. Minerals, tech, and energy. With Trump's tariffs breathing down Canada's neck, Italy's offering a lifeline in some seriously critical sectors. The thesis here is bold. This partnership could give Canada a way to diversify beyond the US, and it's heating up fast. The latest move came just days ago, on February 28, 2025. Canada's Trade Minister Mary Ung hopped a flight to Rome to sit down with Italy's Adolfo Urso. What were they talking about? Liquefied natural gas, semiconductors, and critical minerals. Stuff that powers everything from electric cars to solar panels. It wasn't just a coffee chat either. Global News reported they're eyeing a deal that could see Italy join Canada's Sustainable Critical Minerals Alliance. That's a big step, and it's got some serious implications. Why does this matter? Canada's trade with Italy hit 11.2 billion Canadian dollars in 2024, according to Statistics Canada, a 14% jump from the year before. That's not all food, though the wine helps. Italy's got resources like lithium and rare earths, key ingredients for batteries and tech. Canada's got its own mineral stash, but it's heavily tied to US supply chains. 75% of its exports, remember? If Trump's 25% tariffs hit on March 4th, those chains could choke. Italy's stepping in with an alternative, and the timing's uncanny. Let's talk specifics. Lithium's a hot ticket. Think electric vehicle batteries. Italy's got deposits, and Canada's got the know-how to mine and refine. Pair that with semiconductors, those tiny chips running your phone and car, and you've got a match. Then there's energy. Canada's got LNG to sell, and Italy's hungry for cleaner fuel options. The Rome meeting wasn't just talk. It's a signal they're ready to trade more than just spaghetti. On X, folks are buzzing. Some are saying tech and energy FTW. Others are hyping it up. Italy's our new power plug. But here's the balance check. Not everyone's sold on this. Economist Carlo Dade from the Canada West Foundation weighed in on CBC February 27th, saying, "It's pragmatic, sure, but it's not a fix." He's got a point. Italy's $11.2 billion is a fraction of the US's $680 billion trade with Canada. Minerals and tech sound flashy, but they're still small potatoes compared to the American juggernaut. The pro-US crowd's arguing Canada should negotiate with Trump instead. Why build new bridges when you can patch the old one? It's a fair question. Still, there's a flip side. What if Trump doubles down? Those tariffs aren't a bluff. They're locked in for March 4th unless something wild happens. Canada's not blind to that risk. Italy's not replacing the US, but it's a hedge, a backup plan with legs. Take LNG. Europe's been scrambling for gas since Russia's taps tightened, and Italy's a gateway. Pair that with Canada's supply, and you've got a deal that could grow. Same with minerals. Italy joining that alliance could mean joint projects, shared tech, and a little less begging at Washington's door. Here's a fun one to chew on. Could Italian batteries power Canada's tariff defiance? Imagine EV plants in Ontario running on lithium from Tuscany instead of Texas. It's not there yet, but the seeds are planted. Posts on X are split. Some scoff, Italy's too small time, while others cheer, diversify or die. It's a debate worth having, because this isn't just about trade numbers. It's about who Canada leans on when the US gets prickly. This is where it gets strategic. Canada's not just buying Italian goods, they're buying options. Italy's not a savior. Let's be real, 2% of your trade pie doesn't rewrite the recipe. But it's a start, and it's growing. The Rome talks show intent, and that roadmap they're drafting. It's got teeth. G7 synergy, clean tech, the works. Food was the appetizer. This is the main course. Stick around, because we're about to pull it all together in the big picture. The big picture, limits and leverage. All right, we've covered food and tech, but now it's time to step back and see the forest for the trees. Canada and Italy are tightening their grip. Pasta, minerals, the works. But how far can this really go? The thesis here is straightforward. This bond is real, and it's got potential, but it's no US replacement, at least not yet. Let's unpack the limits and the leverage, because this is where the rubber meets the road. First, some context to set the stage. Canada's not just playing defense with Italy, they're throwing punches too. Back on February 2, 2025, Prime Minister Trudeau announced plans for retaliatory tariffs, 25% on 107 billion Canadian dollars worth of US goods. That's steel, aluminum, even ketchup, stuff to make Washington squirm. Meanwhile, Italy and Canada are drafting this roadmap for 2024 and 2025, leaning into their G7 presidencies. It's not just trade, it's a tag team vibe, and it's got global eyes watching. Here's a curveball worth chewing on. Trump's tariff excuse. He's hammering Canada over fentanyl and migrants, but the numbers don't quite line up. U.S. Customs data from 2024 shows less than 1% of fentanyl seizures come from Canada. Meanwhile, Mexico's clocking 21,000 pounds. Migrants? Canada's border's tight compared to the southern mess. So, is Canada a scapegoat here? Some on X think so. Trump's just mad we're not Mexico, one post quipped. It's a wrinkle that makes you wonder if these tariffs are more politics than logic. Now, let's hear from the experts. Veena Najibullah from the Asia-Pacific Foundation told Al Jazeera on February 4th, Canada needs to structurally diversify beyond the US. This is how you do it. She's all in on the Italy play, seeing it as a long-term win. But the pro-US lobby's pushing back hard. They say, why mess with new partners when you can talk Trump down? It worked in February with that border tech deal. Tariffs paused for a month. Maybe diplomacy's the better bet than rebuilding trade from scratch. It's a tug of war between now and tomorrow. Here's where it gets fun. Imagine this for a second. Canada and Italy teaming up at the G7, staring down Trump's tariffs with a united front. Canada's got the presidency in 2025. Italy had it in 2024. Could they flex some muscle? Picture trade talks where Ottawa says, we've got Europe in our corner. It's not happening tomorrow, but it's not a pipe dream either. The roadmap's got goals, clean energy, minerals, even cybersecurity. On X, some are hyping it. G7 power move. Others scoff, Trump won't care. Who's right? That's the million-dollar question. Let's balance the books, though. Italy's got limits. That $11.2 billion trade in 2024? It's peanuts next to the US's $680 billion. Italy's 2% of Canada's trade pie isn't rewriting the menu. It's a side dish, not the main course. Food's growing, sure. Wine's up 15%. And minerals are promising. But it's not a flip-the-switch fix. The US is still the gorilla in the room, tariffs or not. Canada can't just walk away from 75% of its exports because Italy's got nice cheese. That's the cold, hard truth. But here's the leverage angle. Momentum matters. Italy's not a savior, but it's a spark. That 14% trade jump in 2024? It's a trend, not a fluke. CETA's cutting tariffs, Rome's talking LNG, and those G7 vibes are real. Could this spark a broader EU shift? If Canada pulls in France or Germany next, that 2% starts looking like a foothold. Experts like Najibullah see it. Structural change doesn't happen overnight, but it starts somewhere. Italy's that somewhere and Canada's betting on it. So where does this leave us? It's a mixed bag. Canada's got a retaliatory jab in its pocket and a new buddy in Italy, but the US shadow looms large. This isn't a fairy tale ending. Italy's not riding in to save the day. But it's not a bust either. It's a pivot with teeth, a plan with promise. The big picture is still blurry. Will it outsmart Trump's tariffs? Maybe not fully, but it's a start worth watching. Let's tie it all up next. So, here's the wrap-up, folks. Trump's tariffs are barreling toward Canada like a freight train. 25% on March 4th, 2025, and Italy's jumping in with food, tech, and a whole lot of grit. From wine shelves to mineral talks, this duo's cooking up a counter that's got real flavor. Canada's not just taking punches either. Those 107 billion retaliatory tariffs show they're swinging back. It's a messy, high-stakes dance, and we've peeled back every layer. Will it outfox Washington? Not fully. Italy's 2% can't topple the US's 75% trade titan. But it's a bold start, a pivot with promise. Momentum's building. $11.2 billion in 2024. G7 synergy, LNG on the table. It's not a knockout, but it's a jab that could grow into something bigger. Canada's betting on options, and Italy's a willing partner. What's your take? Genius move or long shot? Drop a comment below and tell me. Can pasta and minerals outsmart Trump's tariff game? Smash that like button if you're hooked, and subscribe for more global breakdowns. We're just getting started. Trade wars are escalating, and the next twist's around the corner. Don't miss it. See you in the next one.